What's up guys, D-Rock1992 here. For this next video, I'm going to be reviewing the second sequel to the Expendables film series, the Expendables 3. It came out last Friday, and it is the first movie that I'm reviewing that just recently hit theaters since Edge of Tomorrow. That was the last movie, the last new movie that I reviewed. Last movie from this year. This is the second one. And I had received a comment before on one of my earlier videos that said I should do more new movies. Thing is, I haven't gotten to the movie theaters as much as I did last year. And this was before, of course, I created this channel. So, you know, it was, when I did do the review for Edge of Tomorrow, there was a couple, I had the channel for about a week or so, something like that. But this will be, this is the second movie I'm reviewing that's a new movie, and without further ado, I'll get into the review. The plot, review, characters, all that stuff. So the Expendables 3, it returns a lot of the same big-time characters. Sylvester Stallone returns in this movie, Jason Statham, Jet Li, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Randy Couture, Terry Crews, and some others too. Bruce Willis does not return in this movie. And Bruce Willis did not return as Mr. Church because there was a contract dispute. Bruce Willis wanted a lot of money for his role. I think he wanted $5 million when they wanted to offer him like $3 million, $4 million. So he got greedy with the money, and that's apparently what happened, and Bruce Willis dropped out of the project. In his place is actually the famous Harrison Ford. You may know him from a little series called Star Wars, and from a little series from portraying a little character named Indiana Jones. But Harrison Ford is in this movie, one of the new characters. Kelsey Grammer from Frasier fame is in this movie, Cheers fame as well. Antonio Bandarras is in this movie, new character. He was actually supposed to be in the second film, but he didn't. He was offered a role in the second film, but he didn't take it because of other project commitments. He does get into this film, and new character there. Mel Gibson plays the main villain. His name is Conrad Stonebanks. Mel Gibson, one of my favorite actors of all time. Lethal Weapon, most commonly known Lethal Weapon series, The Patriot, Braveheart, a lot of great movies that he starred in. So, he's one of the main characters in this movie. Some other young characters, Ronda Rousey, who is actually, I believe, a mixed martial arts expert. She's in this movie. She's the only woman in this movie that's in the Expendables team, or that is a member of the Expendables, essentially, or joining the Expendables. The only woman. And Victor Ortiz is in this movie. He's in the WWE, I believe. Just a lot of new characters that are in this movie. A lot of great new people. 17 cast members that are really big-time cast members in this movie. Who you can really say are big characters. So this is the definition of an ensemble cast. Anyway, we get into the plot. now. The Expendables are sent to basically, the Expendables mission is to rescue one of their former own. Actually, this is a guy I didn't mention, Wesley Snipes. His character, Dr. Death, I think his name is. Dr. Death, something like that. But Wesley Snipes' character, Wesley Snipes, of course, famous for the Blade movies and a lot of action movies and things like that. But the Expendables mission is to rescue him from a dictator and his army. They do this, they rescue the guy, and Wesley Snipes' character comes across as being pretty egotistical, pretty, it's all about me, kind of that kind of persona, something like that. But Wesley Snipes, when we get introduced to Wesley Snipes, he kind of rejoins the team, essentially. And the Expendables then find out, actually they have to intercept, as well as rescuing the Wesley Snipes character, Dr. Death, they also have to intercept some bombs that are being delivered to a dictator. They come to find out, I think these bombs are being sold to the dictator by a man named Conrad Stonebanks, played by Mel Gibson. A guy who Barney Ross knows all too well. Sylvester Stallone's character. So Ross and his men, they confront Stonebanks and his men. They get into a big firefight. Eventually the Expendables have to retreat. Stonebanks severely wounds Hail Caesar, played by Terry Crews, returning in this movie as well. They send Terry Crews' character Hail Caesar to the hospital. And Barney Ross once again is afraid that Hail Caesar is going to lose his life, is going to lose his battle, with the injuries and all that. Once again, Barney Ross is very vengeful, very bent on revenge after Conrad Stonebanks wounds Hail Caesar. Once again, just like the Expendables 2, when Liam Hemsworth's character, Billy the Kid, was killed, revenge is the option for Barney Ross, but he also is very cautious. He doesn't want any more of his members, any other members of the Expendables team, the old Expendables team, none of them. He does not want them to get hurt again. So what he does is that he disbands the Expendables team because he's just worried for all their safety. The Expendables crew, they don't like this, but Barney Ross moves on, and he actually forms a new team, a new younger team, because this isn't an old man's game anymore. Essentially, it's a young man's game. So Barney Ross goes to a friend of his, played by Kelsey Grammer, and they go off and recruit a new team. Rhonda Rousey is one of those. Her character is one of those recruits. Victor Ortiz's character, one of those recruits. Rhonda Rousey's character, Rhonda Rousey, pretty attractive, fairly attractive, and she's definitely strong in mixed martial arts. She's ripped, essentially. She's pretty ripped. She's pretty ripped looking for a woman. So they recruit her, they recruit Victor Ortiz, they recruit Victor Ortiz's character, Glenn Powell, I believe, his character, I think. So Barney Ross and his friend, they recruit this new team, they get everybody together, and they go after Stonebanks, basically. and they have to stop Stonebanks from his plan, which is to, I think it has something to do. It had something to do with nuclear weapons, something like that. They basically, essentially, it's vengeance against Conrad Stonebanks for wounding Hail Caesar. So they go on reconnaissance. They actually, their mission is to go after Stonebanks, capture him, and deliver him to the FBI or to the CIA. They do this. They go into this this abandoned art place, not abandoned, but this art museum, and where a deal's supposed to go down between Stonebanks' men and this other guy's men. The other guy in question is played by a guy named Robert Davi. For those Bond fans, for those diehard Bond fans, Robert Davi was Franz Sanchez in the License to Kill Bond movie. That's pretty much what he's mainly known for. He also was in the first Die Hard movie. A small role, but nonetheless, he was in that. But a deal's about to go down between this guy, Robert Davi's character, and Conrad Stonebanks' men. And then the team ambushes these guys. They capture Stonebanks, and they're going to deliver him to the CIA until Stonebanks' men. Stonebanks has a GPS signal with him. Stonebanks' men locate the truck where Stonebanks is being held until is being transported to the truck where he's being transported to the CIA, and Stonebanks' men intercept the truck. They rescue Stonebanks. They send Barney Ross down the river, essentially to his death. And Stonebanks must know that Ross isn't going to die, because after Ross comes out of the river, almost gets captured by some of Stonebanks' men, but escapes from that. Stonebanks has a small video for Ross, and he says that he's got his young team captive. He did have his young team captive in the struggle for Stonebanks. Stonebanks' men captured the team, so he tells Ross he has them. Basically, he dares him to come get him, come rescue them. So Stonebanks accepts the challenge, of course, being a man of great pride. There's a guy who joins him at first, who was initially rejected because of his age. This guy is played by Antonio Bandarras. Antonio Bandarras is great comedy in this movie. He's just very funny. He's a guy who doesn't shut up, basically. But they both join forces, and then Barney Ross's old team joins forces with him. They convince him, we're gonna fight with you. You're dumb for going off on your own. We're going with you. And the Expendables, the old team, and Antonio Banderas' character, they all go to a place where abandoned place where the young team is being held captive, and they eventually rescue that young team, but Stonebanks has a challenge for them, kind of a challenge, and he has the place wired with explosives. He has the abandoned place wired with explosives. There's this computer expert who's a member of the new team who basically intercepts the signal or whatever from the signal from Stonebanks' bombs, I guess, something like that. And they have like 25 minutes essentially to get out of there alive before it explodes. 25 minutes before the abandoned place explodes completely. Also adding to the challenge is Stonebanks' private army. Stonebanks' private army. Essentially thousands and thousands of troops. They all come in and they attack the Expendables in their biggest attack, their biggest mission ever, basically. The Expendables fight off all of Stonebanks' men. They fight off all of Stonebanks' men, and they have to get out of there. Stonebanks himself, seeing that his men are pretty useless, he goes to try to kill off the Expendables himself. Every Expendable except Barney Ross escapes on a plane, headed by the lead guy of the CIA, Harrison Ford. He actually comes in with Trench Mauser. Arnold Schwarzenegger returns in his role in The Expendables 3, and Jet Li returns as well. And they come as a little help they fight opponents in the air and down on land because they have a helicopter. And all the Expendables, except for Barney Ross, go into the helicopter. Barney Ross is about to go in until Stonebanks stops him, and they engage in hand-to-hand combat until Ross kills him with his pistol. And Stonebanks is dead. Ross gets out of there just in time before the big explosion, and that's the mission. The mission is complete. Everything's complete. They meet up at a bar afterwards, and the young Expendables team is accepted as members of the Expendables. The old team is pretty much graciously accepted back in. Antonio Bandarras' character gets accepted into the Expendables. Wesley Snipes and Jason Statham's character, being as they're both knife throwers, they compete with each other. Statham's character wins, and a lot of stuff goes on in the bar before the movie ends. And that's the movie, basically. This movie, I will tell you right now, is the perfect entry, is the best entry and most perfect entry in the Expendables film series. It's got Mel Gibson plays a great villain. He played a great villain in a movie he did last year, Machete Kills. Mel Gibson, great job. Antonio Banderas was hilarious, very funny. Harrison Ford was pretty good. Wesley Snipes was good. The new guys, the younger Expendables were good. Ronda Rousey, Victor Ortiz, they were good. The older guys, Sylvester Stallone, good as ever. Jason Statham, good as ever. Terry Crews, good as ever. Pretty much, I mean, there was really no weak character in this movie. It really was, I think, the perfect action movie. Like The Expendables 2, it blends the emotion of the Expendables, like it did with The Expendables 2. It blends the emotion and the character development very well with the action sequences themselves. And I really have no complaints with this movie at all. I'm going to give this movie a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. Really, really good action movie. The best entry in the series. And that's my review. D-Rock 1992, out.